I have a confession to make. Yes, I am an AMD fanboy. Now, first off, it's not that I never cover Intel's products. For example, we have the i3-8350K as well as the i5-8400. This is actually driving my NAS server right now, and I'm still sort of working on that server upgrade. And of course, I have an i7-4770K box behind me. At one point, I ran an i7-4790K as my main system. But the primary reason I cover AMD stuff so much more than I cover the Intel stuff is because this channel pretty much comes completely out of my pocket. Now, I am at the point now where any money I make through, whether it be Amazon or YouTube ads, just gets rolled back into the channel so I can actually buy a little bit more stuff. But for the most part, everything bought here, I bought myself. So I have to pick parts that make the most sense, both from a content perspective, but also just as a usefulness perspective. I just want to buy things that are going to give me great value on my investment. And frankly, Intel's products haven't really done that for a good long while. Now, to be clear, AMD stuff doesn't always give great return on the investment. For example, this 860K here, this is back on the FM2 Plus socket. In fact, I apparently still have, oh wait, that's not an 860K at all in this box. That's an A6 5400. Regardless, the box is an 860K, and neither one of those processors would have been a good return on my investment when I purchased them. I believe I actually bought both of these processors, the 860K, which apparently I sold at some point down the line way back when, and of course that A6 in there. Both of those were outdated when I purchased them, and they were not useful really to me at all. Now, the 860K, I believe I was able to offload by selling a used PC, and I think I only got something like $200 out of that entire computer, so I was able to at least get something back for that processor. But this A6 in here is probably never going anywhere because, frankly, I don't think I could really sell a computer running that A6 processor at this point. So not all of AMD's things that I've purchased through my time on Hoosier Hardware have been really worth the investment. But the fact of the matter is, right now, Coffee Lake processors, both the 8000 and 9000 series processors, are overpriced, especially in relation to the 3900X and its counterparts on the Zen 2 architecture from AMD. Great example of that, I just pulled up over here on my main computer a pricing of the i7-8700K, and they're still stuck at $300 at least. And most places you look, most of the main outlets, your Amazons and Newegg's, have that processor still at $330. And also considering the 3600 actually comes with a stock cooler. Now, granted, it's one I would absolutely recommend replacing, but it does at least get you up and running with a system where you can maybe put that $30 investment off for a couple of months if you really want to. The Ryzen 3600 at $200 is just a much better investment, considering those two chips perform very similarly in a wide variety of tasks, both of them being 6 cores and 12 threads. It's just the AMD side of things is just so much cheaper than the Intel side of things, and that's before we even account for the fact that you could get yourself a B350, X370, B450, X470, or X570 motherboard. There's a lot of options there if you're going with the Ryzen-based platform, and with that many motherboard options and platform options, you can get yourself a much cheaper motherboard than you could with the 8700K, because with the 8700K you are likely gonna want to, or even really need to, overclock it for it to match the 3600's performance, and the Z370 motherboards are gonna be a little bit more expensive than if you're, for example, willing to go with a B350 or B450 motherboard with the Ryzen 3600. So basically, this all brings me back to why I am an AMD fanboy, at least right now, and I have been for a good long while, really since I had the 4790K. I've switched back over to the AMD bandwagon, especially with the launch of the original Zen architecture I picked up on launch day in 1800X. Obviously, in hindsight, I should have gotten a 1700, but I was getting it before the reviews were even out. I was pre-ordering it because I knew they'd be sold out pretty much immediately, and that was exactly the case. And I was willing to pony up the extra money to upgrade my platform. But I've been an AMD fanboy for a while, mostly because they're bringing products products to the market that just offer the absolute best value on the brand new market compared to Intel. And the reason that I'm really down on Team Blue lately especially is because they're just not responding, at least in my mind, in an appropriate way to stay competitive with AMD's desktop offerings, especially now that Zen 2 processors are out. I really don't see why you would spend the extra money to get an Intel chip. Even if you're going for the top-end gaming system, spending the extra money to get virtually no extra performance is just not really something that I would recommend doing. Now, I do understand if you're getting a 9900K versus a 3900X in gaming, the 9900K is probably the way to go, and if that's all you want to do with your system and you're wanting the absolute best, absolutely Team Blue is still the overall gaming champion. But understand, by going with the 3900X instead of the 9900K, you not only get top tier gaming performance, but you also get a chip that can do a lot more multi-threaded workloads. And if you have any aspirations to use it in such workloads outside of gaming, then the 3900X is going to wreck the 9900K, especially in productivity tasks. But really, the 9900K is the rare exception to the rule, where as you work your way back down the stack for Intel is just not offering any value compared to the AMD processors, from really anything below the 9900K all the way to the bottom of both Team Red and Team Blue's product stacks. So Intel, in my mind, just hasn't responded, and the pricing is sort of the telltale mark there, where Intel's prices remain high, and a lot of that I think probably comes down to some of the supply side shortages they're still experiencing. And because they're still moving, I think probably most of the chips they're producing anyways, even if they're not able to move as many as they would like because of that shortage, that price is just staying high. But if you're the consumer that's looking to build a new gaming PC and you're looking at either Team Red or Team Blue, I just don't think Team Blue has responded in any sort of appropriate way from a pricing perspective to stay relevant in light of AMD's new platform, which is absolutely phenomenal. As a lesser point though, I always like to support the underdog, and even though AMD is really riding this winning streak on the CPU side of things, extending even into their server platforms now with the new Rome CPUs hitting the market and looking by all accounts to be absolutely demolishing what Intel is offering on the server side of things, AMD is still the underdog here. They still have a long ways to go with making up market share. In a perfect world, these two would be duking it out with nearly equal market shares, and we would see one generation one jump ahead a little bit, and then another generation might come along and the other side would jump a little bit ahead. But we haven't really seen that in a long time. So AMD is riding this winning streak, and I'm really glad they are, because this is bringing them back into relevance and feasibility as a company, and that just gives the market that extra added player to bounce off of Intel, so we're not seeing Intel's dominance over a long span of time, which we did see when we had quad cores with 8 threads, and that was the maximum we saw on the consumer side of things, the mainstream platforms that is. And then AMD came along with Zen and completely changed the game. So I am an AMD fanboy right now. However, that could change if AMD just ran the table for a long time and then suddenly was just dominating Intel in market share, revenue, and everything else, and then turn to negative practices. I would absolutely go back to being Team Blue, but right now, AMD is still the underdog. They're riding this winning streak, which is just awesome for consumers because it gives us that added choice that I always like to talk about. So right now, and for the time being, absolutely yes. Those of you that have accused me in the past and in the comments of being an AMD fanboy, that is absolutely the case. But this is where I want to kick it back to you a little bit. If you are one of those people out there that's getting ready to build a brand new system, I want to know the exact CPU that you're most targeting in on. Are you looking at Team Blue with one of their Coffee Lake processors, whether it be the 8000 or 9000 series, or are you looking Team Red with their Zen 1, Zen Plus, or even Zen 2 architecture CPUs? Which CPU are you looking at? Let me know in those comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, you like hearing a little bit of my opinion, give this video a like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are super helpful to the channel. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.